Hi everyone, this is James from MTG Crown, and today we're going to look at a white-green enchantment deck. So why play this deck? So this deck is all about creating lots of tokens and denying your enemy of letting any of their creatures run riot across the board. So here on this page we have the core of the deck. So I'm going to go through these cards one by one and talk about them as I go along. So we start here with our only creatures in the deck called Herald of the Pantheon. So this is a 2-2 for 2, which is okay, but that's not what we're after here. So its first ability is that enchantment spells you cost 1 less to cast. So fantastic. So this is the only creature in the deck, and all of our other spells are enchantments. So this is going to be very, very relevant. The other ability is then whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain 1 life. So that's again fantastic. Against some early aggressive decks, this will start ticking up the life which we have. So that was Herald of the Pantheon, our only creature. So now these are the enchantment core. So the first is Sigil of the Empty Throne. So this is 3 and 2 white. And whenever you cast an enchantment spell, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So this is going to get ridiculous if you can cast quite a few enchantments every single turn. So this is one of our main win conditions. So we have Sigil of the Empty Throne out and we cast lots of enchantments, get lots of huge flying 4/4 white angel creatures and beat down our enemy with them. We then have another card, which is an alternative win condition called Starfield of Nyx. So for 4 and a white, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that's fantastic. So if they start removing our Sigil of the Empty Throne, or any of our removal that I'll talk about later, we get one back every single turn. So that's good for longevity. But the thing which was really interesting on this card is that as long as you control 5 or more enchantments, which we definitely should, each other non-aura enchantment you control is a creature in addition to its other types and has base power and toughness equal to the converted mana cost. So for example, Starfield of Nyx in this position would be a 5/5. So this means at some point in the game, as well as producing lots of tokens, all of your enchantments will suddenly turn on and you'll have a huge field of creatures you can attack your opponent with. Say for example they then kill some of your enchantments, at the beginning of your next upkeep you return them to the battlefield again. So this will just mean that these simple removal spells, which I'll show you in a bit, will become these horrific creatures which your opponent has to deal with. Our last win condition is Retreat to Emeria. So this is landfall. So in this deck we don't really want to draw land, but when we do, we can now do something useful with it. So whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you can put a 1/1 white core ally creature token onto the battlefield. All creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So both of these modes are very useful for us. So usually we'll try and just create these white core ally creatures just so we can go wide. But also the creatures you control get +1/+1 can be very useful if we have Starfield of Nyx out to help buff all of our enchantment creatures we have just created. So that was the core of the deck. Now let's look at our non-aura removal. So the rest of the deck now is pretty much all removal spells. So let's go through them one by one. We start with 4 copies of Silk Wrap. So Silk Wrap exiles target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less. So this is an enchantment or enchantment aura, so when its Starfield of Nyx turns on, it will be a 2/2. That's our first lot of removal. Next is Status Snare, and this just exiles target creature. It doesn't have this converted mana cost 3 or less condition on it. However, Stasis Snare can be played under Flash, so we can play it as an instant. So that is very, very useful for us as more removal. Finally, we have Suspension Field, so this is one of the older cards from Khans of Tarkir, and this says that we can exile target creatures with toughness 3 or greater. So between these 12 cards, we've got a lot of this exile removal in play, which is very, very good for us. So it will just help in the early moments of the game stave off them pesky creatures our opponent likes to play. Finally, I've got a category called Other. So this consists of a little bit more removal and this other card, which I'll talk about in a minute. So we start with 2 copies of Pacifism. So this is an aura, so it doesn't turn into a creature. But early on in the game, you can enchant a creature and it can't attack or block. And for 1 and a white, it's very cheap and just helps us that early game removal. Next, we have 4 copies of Suppression Bonds, which at first seems very, very expensive. However, with this you can enchant a non-land permanent, so it's not just creatures. An enchanted permanent can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. So this is our main Planeswalker defense card, so when they put out a big burly Planeswalker, we can enchant it and stop it from ticking up and down with its loyalty. We finally have this slightly weirder card called Helm of the Gods, and we see we only have two of them as a secondary win condition if lots of else fails. So we can equip this onto a creature and it gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. So this could easily give a creature +5/+5 with just attaching it, simply because of how many enchantments we are playing. So that was the main deck. As you can see, it's a fairly simple idea. We have our cool card from early on, and then we have lots and lots of removal apart from that. The land base is very simple and very cheap. So we play 4 lots of Evolving Wilds. We play Evolving Wilds because we get the triggers on Retreat to Emeria. 4 copies of Tranquil Expanse, which is a basic, enters the battlefield tapped and gives us this range of green and white. Then we play 7 forests and 9 plains. You could, if you had the money, upgrade this land base to include fetch lands and tango lands, but to keep the price down and to make it more of an accessible deck, we'll leave it at this more basic land base. So that was the green and white deck. It's very, very cheap to build, and it would be fantastic playing FNM or just another deck to have lying around. Please like, subscribe and share to see more standard deck tech videos coming up, and please click on the videos on the right hand side of the screen to see other standard deck techs we have previously made before.